Hello and welcome to Kirsty Knits and Sews. My name is Kirsty and this is my podcast where I talk about all the things that I am knitting and crocheting and occasionally sewing. It is February 7 today, Wednesday, and I am here to talk to you about everything that I have knit in 2024 so far. Welcome to 2024. This is my first podcast recorded in 2024, so welcome. I will also be talking a little bit about how I am tracking things this year and go over January stats because January is already finished. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Kirsty Knits and Sews, and everything I talk about today, including projects on Ravelry, will be linked below. So let's jump in. I hope you have a cuppa, tea, coffee, cold drink that you like to drink and something to keep you occupied, whether that's knitting or laundry or something else that you like to do. Black tea, banana bread, I think is the type of tea. It's from Tea Leaves in Sassafras, Australia, and they do ship worldwide. All right, let's jump in. I'm actually not wearing the first one that I wanted to show you because I forgot to put it on. I was planning to be wearing it already. And it's not too warm today, so I could have been. But here we go. I finished my Dart Days cardigan. This is a pattern by the Crochet. She's on Instagram, Ravelry. Again, project pages will be linked below, so patterns will be found in the project pages. Yeah, and it's a reasonably new release. I think she released at the end of November last year, and I bought it pretty much straight away to make this cardigan with my Advent set. Yes, I did Advent. Last year I had a yarn Advent to open, but instead of buying one pre-made, me and 4 friends got together and swapped. We each dyed 5 colorways in a gradient and we swapped them. So I have in here yarn that is dyed by 5 different people plus the base color. So let me tell you about this. All right, we've had a little dance. I've already talked about the pattern. The yarn that I used is fingering weight sock yarn. And then the main color is, nope, not that one, Cleckheaton Midlands. It's an 8-ply. It's actually kind of a steely blue, but when put with the rest of the colors, it really reads grey, which is fine with me because I wanted it to be a neutral. But when I had it in the balls, it really did look blue. So there you go. It is, what do I say? Most of this, or 3/5 of this, is fingering held double. So I did, actually let's do it this way. So the bottom 5 colours to there, I dyed. The next 5 to there, my friend Rosie dyed. From here to here, my mum dyed. From here to here was another friend, Karen. And then these 5 purpley pinks were my sister. It was so enjoyable to open a different colour every day and to open them in groups of 5 knowing that a different person dyed them. It was a much more affordable way to do an Advent. So if you're interested in yarning Advents, last year me and my sister just swapped scraps. 2 years ago, last year, we did a dye swap and I think we're going to do the same thing this year. It's been a lot of fun. And also to see the yarn made in different projects. My friend Rosie made some baby leggings out of all the yarn and had a little bit of the yarn all together. My sister did the anthology throw and that's a circular blanket. And she used almost all of every colour and it was a very different look. So it's been really fun to see all of the different projects coming out. My mum and the other lady who was doing it, Karen, we are both doing blankets, but very different styles. Karen's holding her, using white yarn in hers as her background colour, and Mum has a few different colours thrown in there to get up to the yarn quantity she needed for her blanket. So it's been really fun watching them all come together. This one, I started on the 1st of December, but I didn't actually have my yarn advents with me when I started it. So I cast on, it's bottom up, so I cast on the bottom hem, and then I was on holidays. So when I got home from holidays, I pulled the advent out, opened the first few days and added them in. And I kept up with it reasonably well with actually putting in the colour as I opened it, or on the day that I opened it. I think it was probably when I got up to the blues that I got a bit sidetracked with Christmas knitting, and definitely when I got to the sleeves I kind of paused. It was already a few days past Christmas by that point, but I didn't know how I wanted to do the colours for the sleeves, because a lot of drop shoulders will start the sleeve colour around here so that it will kind of match on the way down, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do because I knew I hadn't used the last 3 purples, so I wanted to use them. And so I finally decided to do the last 3, so I kind of have all of those 5 set together since they weren't together here, and then I did a truncated rainbow down to the bottom so that when I'm wearing it you kind of have a bit of a slip down, but you get the whole rainbow in a smaller space. And the other thing is the yarns were different weights. So they're fingering weight, but the ones that me and my mum used were the same. We bought them in Europe, and the one my sister used, but they were all similar weights, where the ones that my friends Rosie and Karen used were Bendigo Woolen Mills, and it was still fingering sock, but it was just a bit of a thicker fingering sock. And so when I started using that, I realised holding it double was going to be too thick. And so I actually held the fingering weight single for those bits. And so it is a slightly thinner fabric when I feel here to when I feel here, but it's much of a muchness holding that one single and holding the other double. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. The buttons I got from an op shop. I got a whole bag of them for, I don't know, $2 or something, so that was a bargain. And the pattern was brilliant. It was very clear, very simple. The only part I struggled with was when I split for the sleeves, because it was bottom up, so the whole thing was in one, and it was like, do this much and then do here. It was like knit this many, cast off this many, but I think I was assuming too much knowledge. So it was like, knit this many, cast off this many, which meant you had to then like knit one, knit a second one and put the first one over, where I had originally thought it was just when it got to cast off, it was like knit one, put the previous one over, but that was the previous, like the last knit stitch of the previous section. So when I kind of approached that row like I was an absolute amateur, it made sense. But as someone who has knit a lot, I was a little confused. And I had recently knit the Tessellated Vest by Andrea Mowry, and I found her explanation for the splitting for the sleeves row so much more detailed, and like there was absolutely no guesswork of, do you mean this, do you mean that? It was so clear. So this one, that was the one row that I did, and then I was like, no, that's not right, and I had to go back, tink back, knit backwards, and fix that up so that I ended up with the right amount of stitches. And that was fine. Once I did that, that was the only row I had problem with. The rest of it was easy, logical, great. The pattern is very simple repeat, very memorizable, very effective and graphic. Yeah, it was a delight to knit. And yeah, it very quickly became, I don't have to think about it knitting, which is always nice, but still fun because I was changing colours all the time. I don't know what else there is to say about that one. So I started it on the 1st of December and I finished it on the 18th of January. So about 6 weeks to knit this jumper. It used 575 grams. I bought 9 balls of this one, and I think I only ended up using, it was either 7 or 7 and a little bit. So I still have, I think 2 full balls, but at least 2 in a large quantity left of this. I don't know what I'm going to use that with, but I have it. It's great. I am going to pause for a second to tell you what I am doing for tracking things this year. So continue to admire this, but I'm going to jump into just quickly stats and what that looks like for me this year. Because I know last year I did a whole video about it, pulled out all of my stash, laid it out, catalogued it, so I knew exactly what I had, what projects I was planning to do, all of that. And I just don't have all my stash with me at the moment. I'm still traveling and my stash is at home being looked after by other people, so I just don't have it all with me. And I thought, I'm not gonna do what I have with me now and then when I get back to Poland do the rest of it. It just is a bit meh. So rather than tracking how much I have and seeing if I can finish the year with with less than I started, I'm just gonna track how much I use and how much I get in. And that way I'll know if I finish the year with less than I started, because I'll be keeping a balance, but I'm not actually writing down every single thing as I bring it in. That I already have. I'm just writing in what I bring in and what I take out. I also decided this year, for the first time in a couple of years, not to buy a pre-made knitting journal, because I realized last year there were just a lot of things that I wasn't using in the knitting journal. Like for a 2 double page spread, so 4 individual pages, I was using one of them regularly. And I thought it's just a bit of a waste. And if I'm also not cataloguing all the yarn at the end, like it's not going to be worth the resources or my money to use that this year. So I had a look, I got some stamps, and I bought a $5 journal. I actually don't know if it's only $5 normally, but it was from a $5 and under shop. So it was $5. I think it's Montmartre. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. And it's a sketch journal, but it has plain pages and it lays flat, which is what I wanted. And they're like, it's a sketch journal, so it's a little bit of rough paper, which is lovely. Very absorbent. I did something with texture and it went straight through. So I was like, right, not doing that again. But I've just written Knitter's Journal 24, had some stamps to put in and a sticker. And every day, I'll show you a blank page first. Every month looks something like this. So I have, and this is where I'm kind of cheating, I had stamps. So I had a recipe card stamp that was just plain lines, and so I stamped that twice on this page, and then I drew in the 4 vertical lines and wrote the things at the top. So for every month I'm tracking projects, yarn use, start date, end date, and grams, and at the bottom how many finished objects, how many unfinished objects, and grams used. I'm also tracking skeins in and skeins out, which was another recipe card stamp. So stamp set had both of these types of lines. And down here, stats. So how much I had the previous month, how much in, how much out, total, or what the balance is. I went through and I did this for every month at the beginning. So I'm not at the beginning of the month sitting down and writing it out. It's all there through to the end of the year. I got so bored while I was doing it all in a row, but I'm really glad I did that because I knew that if I had to do it at the beginning of each month, it would not last. So this is what January looks like, because I had a bit of space here. I actually did a different stamp here, which I've changed. But yeah, so like things to do, the stats, a few little stamps for like what I'm thinking of or dreaming about, and of course the projects. So this is all I'm using when I'm talking to you, is the book that I'm already keeping track of things with. Yeah, so it's really great. I just wanted to share that because I keep referring to it. So now you know what I'm looking at and what I'm reading out of. I will wait until I've shown you everything before I tell you what my total stats are for January. I'm actually pretty happy with it. All right, so the other thing that I finished, oh, I have one here that I don't have to show you. I finished a baby granny square blanket. It was just to start in the center and one big granny square, and I did it out of ice cream, Portercraft ice cream in the lemon meringue colorway 8-ply. Yeah, it was pretty. I gave it away. It took me 2 days. Yep, started on the 9th of January, finished on the 11th of January, and gave it away. It was very quick, and it used 377 grams. Yay! It was all greys and whites and yellows, and if I can find the picture, I'll put it in here. Otherwise, it'll be linked below with everything else. But I didn't get a completed picture, only a, hey look, I've done a tiny little bit of this picture. I also finished some socks for me. Here we go. I don't have my sock blockers with me, so they're just going to be slightly awkward. These socks, I have both of them, and I did make them to match. They are, what's the name? Best Socks, number 7359. I started these on the 29th of November in the hope that they would be my Christmas stocking, and they weren't. I finished them on the 15th of January. I was doing them on 9-inch circulars on a 2.25mm needle, which means it took longer. It was more rows because it was slightly smaller. I usually use 2.5mm. But it also meant that it just, I don't know, I find 2.25mm just takes me longer. It's not what I find in the round 9-inch circulars, that's one, takes me longer. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's real or imagined or if I just got sidetracked by other things. But yeah, I just find it took me longer than I would have expected. The heels are Javol, Jawoll, probably saying that wrong, Javol. I don't know if it's 83.0109 or if it's 2132 is the colorway, but they were the numbers on the yarn. And I bought this from a shop in Poland online. I also I was planning to make the match. And then I finished the first sock and I cast on the second straight away and I started knitting and I got through the cuff and started down here when I went, hang on, I wanted them to match. So I did, I took it out and started it again, and I'm really happy that I did. I've also changed the way that I do cast-ons. I was doing German twisted cast-on, and now I'm just doing a long tail cast-on, always over 2 needles. And so I think one is one and one is the other. I don't know if you can see the difference in the cuff there. The German twisted does give a neater look, in my opinion, but the long tail I find has more movement and more stretch. So I'll probably go back and forth between the two in my time. Anyway, that was 65 grams. And I'll also say the way that I'm tracking skeins in and skeins out is when I use the majority of a yarn, I will say it's a skein out and I will put the entirety of the skein in my skeins out. But when I weigh projects, I weigh the actual weight. And so my total grams used versus my total skeins out grams are different. But I'm interested to know how that actually parallels, because I also do a lot of scrappy knitting. I use scraps for heels and things. And so, yeah, I'm just really interested to see how accurate doing one versus the other is, because I know some people are like, it has to be knitted, but then sometimes you've got to, if you're trying to figure out how much you actually knit on scrappy projects, when do you count that? So yeah, I'm doing when I finish, how much yarn was in this project, and I'm doing when I finish, how many skeins are out of my stash, and seeing what the difference is. All right, what else do I have to share? I also trying to figure out if there's an order to do this. All right, the next one that I finished is a tiny little hen. Tiny little hen. This is a pocket hen. The pattern is by Melissa Burke of Apiary Knits. It is like very, very quick. It did take me 2 days because I cast on right at the very end of the day because I just wanted to start. And so I did like the tiniest little bit of the tail and put it away and finished the next morning. It is super quick. I want to say super easy. It was super easy for me, but there are short rows. I did it on double pointed needles. So if you're not used to double pointed needles, you're not used to short rows, it's not a simple knit. I would say probably intermediate. Tiny little feet. So like I crocheted the feet and the, I don't know, wattle and comb. I don't know which one's which. So I crocheted them and then sewed them on. So it's a bit of a fiddly thing and it is a small thing. But yeah, really, really enjoyed making this and I want to make lots more with scraps in all different colours. Yeah, I just realised you can see my child's artwork behind me. Yeah, so what do you want to know about this one? It took me a day. It weighs, well, I put down 20 grams used because I have the outside, but I also stuffed it with yarn. But I also stuffed it with fabric offcuts because I was working on, I should show you them. I was working on my ice cream soda quilt and I was fussy cutting and I had lots of little random scraps of cotton fabric. And I was like, that's kind of squishy. And so I thought, let's use that as well. So I stuffed it with this yarn for the tail because the tail has a little bit of holes in the center that you see, that you would see if you put white stuff in there. So I used the actual yarn for the end of the tail. Then I stuffed it with some fabric, some yarn, and then I think at the end maybe I used a bit more of this because I'd run out of all of my scraps. The main yarn is Fiddlesticks Knitting Yarn Anti-Pilling Superb Tweed. I bought this from the Mustard Tree in Milton. Yeah, I think that's what it's called, the Mustard Tree. It's in Milton. Milton, New South Wales. And I bought it to make this because I knew I wanted to make this. And I have obviously heaps left over. I didn't count it as a skein out because I used so little of it. So I will make some more. And then yeah, the beak is the colour of the baby blanket. The eye was in the baby blanket, so I had a little bit left over. The sheep were, I don't have it in there. The sheep is this colour here. Look at that. The feet, sorry, the sheep. The feet. And the wattle and comb I have in another project that I'm about to show you. Same. So yeah, it's just a bit of a scrappy project all around. Really love it. And yeah, if you are a confident knitter, give it a go. Very simple. And yeah, I'm really glad I bought the pattern rather than trying to make one without a pattern because gosh, it was a little complicated, but the pattern was super clear in what to do, so it was great. All right, I also finished a pair of socks for my brother, which I do not have with me because it was his birthday and I finished them the day before his birthday. I did have, hang on. All right, I do have the yarn that I used in his socks, which is one that I dyed. So here it is. if you're interested, I don't sell yarn that I dye, I just dye yarn for fun. And this was one of the first ones that I actually dyed. Reminds me of a place I used to live called Warrielic in Australia. We lived opposite a cattle station and like on a grassy verge. So this just reminds me of that view. And I thought my brother would appreciate that because he does too, or he used to live there too. It was the first pair of socks I'd knit for my brother, and he liked them and said that me and my sister could go ahead and knit him socks for birthdays and Christmases going forward. Total win. And I've also got all of my husband's family on board with hand knit socks. So like I will keep knitting socks and I will make some for me, but a lot of them are just going to be presents. I'm so excited. I have some different colour work patterns lined up for people, and yeah, it's going to be great. But yeah, so I don't have a photo of the finished socks. Maybe, no, I don't think I even took a photo of the finished socks. I have a photo of them cast on and I have a bit of the yarn. And this is 5 grams that I've wound off for my Cozy Memories blanket. So I've just been winding them off, putting them in the bag to add to my Cozy Memories blanket, which I'm just going to go ahead and show you because it's been a while. There you go. I'm really loving this blanket and the craziness of the blanket. It is the Coziest Memory by Kemper Ray. I'm doing 20 stitches per side instead of what the pattern called for, which was I think 24. And yeah, I've been adding to this sporadically, but like I've stopped adding project markers as I add to them because I just have been adding so many. There you go. The Coziest Memory. It's just something that I do occasionally when I'm in between projects or I just want to work on something scrappy. That was a bonus. I wasn't planning to show you that one today, but I pulled it out to show you the yarn and I thought, why not? All right, so I did have another big finish this month with a jumper that I started the 14th of December and I finished on the 31st of January. And yes, I did try really hard to push to get it done on the 31st of January because I wanted to finish it in January and have grams count towards January. It was a great motivator. It was also it's for a birthday present for someone whose birthday is tomorrow, which is why I'm recording this today, so I can show you the jumper before I gift the jumper. So I'm just going to put it on. It is not made for my size. Okay, I'm like, where should I start? It is made for my brother-in-law. It is a size medium, I believe, of the Flax Sweater by Tin Can Knits. It's a free pattern and I used her app, their app, which is also a free app, and I 100% recommend. It was brilliant. It took you through every step of, do this, repeat 15 times, go back. And every time you do it, you click it and it like keeps track of where you're up to and tells you when to move on. It was so simple and so brilliant. So I made this for him. I didn't do a gauge swatch. I didn't do a gauge swatch for my other one either. And I did use Bendigo Woolen Mills Luxury 4-ply, which is, I don't have the navy that kind of runs through the whole thing. That is the Bendigo Woolen Mills Luxury 4-ply, which, as I realised with my cardigan, does run a little big. And so having it in here means that I haven't actually measured, I think it's a bit larger than a size medium, but I think it'll work great. It actually fits me all right, a bit oversized. It fits my husband, so it should fit his brother. I measured one of my brother-in-law's jumpers to find out what size before I started knitting it. So here it is. Clearly too long for me, not made for me, but I really, really like it. And I I can't show you. Basically, I made a jumper for my nephew. Oh, my nephew. Golly gosh. I made a jumper for my son, and my brother-in-law saw it and went, oh, that's cool. If you want to knit me something, I'll have one of them. And so then I went out and bought wool and knit him one. It is a scrappy jumper. I have made things match as much as I can, but I didn't have enough scraps to do the whole thing. So these ones here are all scraps, maybe down to here. And then the rest of them are actually full skeins that I had that I then used, 20 grams, 30 grams of each one and made it work that way. So yeah, it means that I have a lot of 80 gram balls now. Some of them were 50 gram to start with, and so I just put them straight back into scraps. But some of them were 100 grams to start with that went down to like 80 or 70, and then I've used a little bit more for other things for some of them. Anyway, they're still in my stash. I just will have to remember when I'm knitting socks that it's not a full skein and make sure that I use a contrasting heel and possibly toe. What else about this one? I'm not going to go through all of the yarns in here. It is really cozy, and I'm really tempted to make myself one now, and my husband, I think, has said that he will accept one of these as well. Yeah, it's really cozy. Yeah, so it used a whopping 769 grams total. But yarn out from this one was only, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 750. 750. So, no, 650. There you go. So yarn out was 650, but grams 769. So here's an example where taking whole skeins out actually ended up with less than the total amount knit. And yeah, the main one, the Bendigo Woolen Mills, it comes in 200 gram balls, and I bought 3 balls to make sure that I would have enough. I only used 2, like most of 2. So I still have 200 grams of that left as well. I'm okay with that. I'd much rather buy more rather than less, and it means that if I want to go make something for one of my children, I can do that because I have 200 grams of a fingering weight yarn, which should do enough for something for my kids. What else? Oh, striping. The pattern is not striped. The pattern is just for a plain knit. I wanted to stripe because that's what I did for my son's one. And it is, okay, here's the thing. I started doing 14 stripes per thing, which is 7 repeats, because there's this beautiful texture on the arm. So it was 7 bumps, purl bumps on the back or on the arm. And so I did that to here where I split for the sleeves, and then on the body from after I split, I was doing 12 and therefore only 6 bumps, which means that the stripes here are 2 rows longer than the stripes down here. Do you think anyone's going to notice if I don't point it out? Probably not. Or they might just think it's the natural stretching that the top stretches more than the bottom. I don't know. But by the time I realised I'd done the whole body and was starting to pick up and work on the sleeve, and that was when I realised that I had changed from 7 to 6 purl bumps, 14 to 12 rows. And I went, you know what? I don't care. The brother-in-law's not going to care. No one's going to care. It is what it is. And so I just made sure that the rest of the sleeves matched the body, because that's where it's going to be lining up. Yeah. But if you do want to do this, always make sure that you're changing colour after a purl bump row, because the next row will be knit and you won't get the weird like colour blending between. If you're wanting to do it mulled in a like colour fade, that would be different maybe, but definitely if you're wanting distinct stripes, doing it after a purl bump row means that you get these distinct colours for the purl bumps rather than trying to rather than having one that's kind of mixed. And that is my trick for socks as well, which I'll try and remember to tell you when I show you my socks in a minute, is that that's what I do. In fact, did I do it here? I kind of half did it there. I did it for the blue to pink, but not from the pink to purple. Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. My camera is not that great. But there is like a pink bump here in the purple, but there's no pink to blue bumps here. And that's because when I changed from blue to pink, I knit the first row and then I continued with the rib from that point on. And so it means that the change from blue to pink is actually very clean with no purl bumps there. I can show you probably better in another sock in a minute that I'm working on currently. Yeah, so that is my last finish for January 2024. I did finish it not at midnight, like I finished it early in the evening and actually had all of the ends woven in and everything before the end, but I did block it in February. And that means that total, my yarn out, my grams out, or grams used in January was 1,873 grams. That's yarn that I knit. And to be fair, not all of it was knit or crocheted in January because some of it was started in December. The first part of this was started in December, but I'm very, very happy. And I didn't count any of that in my December stats from last year. So yeah, all good. And that's just how I do it. Grams out is always when the project is finished, not how much I knit in that month. Skeins out though was 2,150 grams. So that is how much went out of my stash skein wise, which I'm very happy with again, especially since the only skein that I bought was one that I've already used, but I didn't use it last month. I used it this month. And it was a 50 gram ball of yarn. So I'll show you now. The one that I bought was Pattern Tile Merino 4-ply in the colorway 1037. Patterns is an Australian brand, I believe. It was 80% merino, 20% nylon, and I bought it to make socks, which I have since made. So very happy with that. So yeah, my net so far for, actually I need to put in a minus here. My net so far for 2024 is minus 2.1 kilograms, 2,100 grams. Very, very happy. Yeah. So there we go. That's January. And that is all on this beautiful double page spread. Love it. I finished 6 objects and I finished the month with 6 unfinished objects as well. So then the next month I just turned the page and wrote in the 6 unfinished objects and have kept tracking. So skeins in so far are none, skeins out so far are 3, and I do have 2 finished objects from this month. So let me talk about them quickly, and then I will talk to you about whips, and then I don't know if there's anything else after that. We'll see. All right. So one of the things that I have realized with everyone wanting socks for Christmas is that I need to knit socks for Christmas. And we are going back to Europe soon. And so whatever I can knit and leave in Australia, I want to knit and leave in Australia because I don't see, I know there's a point, but I'm like, if I have the yarn here now that I'm then taking back to Europe to knit to post back to Australia, why don't I just knit them while I'm in Australia? Where I have other projects that I'd like to finish, but I'm like, that's going to come back to Europe with me anyway, whether it's finished or if it's in balls of yarn. So I may as well knit the stuff that I can leave if it's finished. Did you follow that? Anyway, so the first thing that I've done is I'm knitting some DK weight Christmas socks. Now I did start these for me and my husband, and then I realized that my in-laws would probably like them as well. So I change track and I knit these for my father-in-law and my mother-in-law. And then when I get back to Poland, I know I have more yarn that is very similar to this that I will then knit us socks with. And because I've realised everyone wants socks, or at least everyone is willing to have socks. I don't know if there's a difference. But it used to be, you know, I make some for my dad, I make some for my father-in-law, I make some for my husband and give them to him straight away. Like, I didn't have to really keep track of whose was whose. But if I'm making socks for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people, I'm going to need to figure out whose is whose and keep them straight. So I have these little cards that I can put their names on, and then I know exactly who they're for. And I'll probably just wrap this up like this and gift them that way. Anyway, cute little cards. Bought them on Temu. Dad's see. Alright, so these socks are the first ones that I finished. And the colourway, it's not coming up great. It is not quite that, like, I think they're blowing out a bit. It's a bit better. So this is yarn held double. It is the Pattern Tile Merino, but in colourway 1034. Yeah, and it is held double with, I do have it here, Hobby Christmas Sock Wool Glitter, which is 73% superwash wool, 25% polyamide, and 2% polyester. And that is, yeah, I bought this when I was in Poland. It is colourway number 6. And I, held it doubled throughout this. I did wind off a little bit to make them mostly match. There is a very, very tiny bit of the dark green on the toe, which this one has a bit more of the dark green. But generally, they match. And yeah, I don't know, there's much more to say. It is the pattern, that would be helpful. It is DK Vanilla Socks by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady. It is a DK weight sock, so fingering held double works well. It was a bit of a thicker sock, so the Pattern Tile Merino Merino. It is again a little bit of a thicker 4-ply, so these are very thick and will be cozy. But my in-laws have they live in Australia, so it's hot, but they have the air conditioning on and no carpets on floors, so they wear socks. And so even at Christmas time, I think this will work. What else? I started these ones on the 26th of January and I finished them on the 2nd of February. My father-in-law, I think, is a size 12 foot, and so I just measured. I actually have, not with me right here, I have a piece of template plastic that I've turned into a sock ruler, and I just have written on it where all the people in my family need me to stop for their toes. And it, works out well. DK Vanilla Socks is a free pattern by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady. So if you're wanting to get into socks and you're a bit nervous about fingering weight and how long that might take, these are a great way to get started because they are much quicker. And these used a whopping 121 grams because they're large socks and they're fingering held double. And I didn't like the Christmas sock wool yarn. I've made a pair with them before and I'm just not a big fan. Holding it double, I like it better. I like the look better. I like the feel better, but I'm still not going to buy this yarn again. I'm just going to use what I actually have and it'll be done. And I will also say, because I started these when I was still working on this and I got a little bit sick of marling. I was ready to not have a marled project, but I really wanted to get these done and get the next ones done so that I could get off marling. So the next one's same, but for Mum C, and this is using the Pattern Tile Merino that I bought last month. So I went in, I had 1.5 skeins of the red, And so I went in going, if I can get a different colour, that would be good. And they had one skein of this green where I went, and it said last skein discontinued. And I'm like, that's fine. I should only need one skein, right? Well, if I didn't hold it double for the heel, yes. But because I held it for the double for the heel, I kind of shot myself in the foot. So, DK Vanilla Socks. Again, these are fingering held double. And this is Pattern Al Merino, this time in the colourway 1037. And yeah, for a much smaller foot, like a much smaller, where's the heel? Much smaller foot. Down there? I don't know. Anyway, smaller, like the foot and the whole sock are the same size. Again, I made them match. I wasn't going to quite have enough of the main colour, so I actually, of the striping sock, so I got some that I had wound off from the previous sock and added that in, and that meant that the tops matched and it was all good. But you can see the toes look a little different down here. What happened? When I was knitting, I realised that I was not going to have enough of this yarn, and I knew that I couldn't get any more because it was discontinued, and I bought the last ball. And I also didn't really want to buy another ball because I knew it was only for a little bit of the toe. And so I was kind of kicking myself, and I knew that if I had just, held it double the whole way and it didn't have a contrasting heel, then I wouldn't have run out of yarn, or I could have found a different yarn, or I had a tiny bit of this one left, so I could have held that double. Anyway, I really do like the look of having the plain heel. So I went into my stash and I found this one, which has some similar greens in it. And so I just held this double for the last bit of the heel. So from about here, last bit, there you go. Last bit of the sock from here to the toe, and holding double with this instead of with this one. This is Zabberball Crazy from Shopple, and it is colorway 2404. It says type of Wasser, but I don't know what that means in English. So yeah, I just had this in my stash. Actually, I bought this to make socks for the person that these are for. And I actually like that so much that I may just save this for my own Christmas socks and hold this double with the other yarn that I have back in Poland. Yeah, so I still have 70 grams of this. I also use this one, this colorway here is this yarn. So yeah, it's been really fun to kind of use a slow changing variegated yarn in different ways and seeing what it looks like. But yeah, absolutely loving that toe. These took me a whole 4 days to do. I started on the 2nd of Feb and I finished on the 6th of Feb, and they weigh 98 grams, which is about what I expect when I knit socks for me or for my mother-in-law out of DK weight. We tend to use an entire skein of yarn. Obviously fingering weight, it's 2 half skeins, but it's the equivalent of 1 DK skein. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, I did size medium. I do size medium for pretty much everyone in my family, and I just changed the length of the foot. I did make a size large once for my husband, and he was like, I can't wear these, and so I just frogged it. I think I made him try it on after the first sock, and he's like, it's way too loose, and so I frogged it, and I just do size medium for everyone now. It's great. All right, now whips. I have 2 yarny whips and 1 English paper piecing whip. I forgot what the word was. All right, so I'm going to talk English paper piecing first. This is the Ice Cream Soda Quilt by Jodie of Tales of Cloth. She designs English paper piecing quilts and works with some other ladies to run a shop where you can buy the paper pieces for all of her quilts that, I think they do it in batches, so like they have different ones available at each time. But at the moment she's doing an ice cream soda sew along, quilt along. So if you're interested in making this, the kit is available right now, the pattern is available right now, and you can jump in and you can sign up on her website to find out. I think you get weekly emails or fortnightly emails saying these are different ways to think about approaching this quilt to make it something that you really love. There's also a huge emphasis on learning through this quilt because it is circular designs and there's only 3 colours per block, and so it's a very different style to a lot of her quilts, which you can just kind of go completely scrappy with. This one, it's much harder to go completely scrappy without any kind of thing tying it together. And so she talks about all of that in her blog and on her blog and in these emails, which has been really brilliant. I have made one of her quilts in its entirety from beginning to end, except I'm in the middle of quilting it because I'm trying to do that by hand and I haven't touched it for like 2 years for quilting. But the top I did completely. And I really loved her pattern and her paper pieces. This time I already had 3 blocks worth of her paper pieces, and then I just went to Officeworks and printed off the pages that she supplies in the pattern, and I've been cutting them out by hand for the rest. I also knew I wanted to do Christmas and I wanted to do a little bit of fussy cutting, which is not my normal style, but I absolutely love this quilt when there is fussy cutting in it. So my plan at the moment is that each block will have one thing that's fussy cut in it and just using contrasting fabrics for the rest. I really, really like this block. And I'm not being super particular, like you can see like here there's a little bit of a tree here, but it's not here. It is there, but it's not there. You might see that like the shape of this tree is different to the shape of this tree, but there are 3 of one and 3 of the other. I'm not being super legalistic about it, I guess. I'm just kind of going, that works, trying to make it as symmetrical or as fussy cut without having a burden of perfection. And I'm very happy with how that's working out. Like this next one is a very different vibe. It's much more kind of country, and it's still got some fussy cutting details. I love that they're running a ring around, but they're not all identical. Like you can see the placement of things around the edges are different. So again, going for the vibe of fussy cutting without having everything perfect. And I love this one. So we've got little owls, presents, and foxes. And yeah, like it's not that everyone is the same, but the outside all has something to focus on. And the reason I did it this way is I just didn't have enough fabric. I had a fat quarter. I couldn't get all foxes or all owls. And so I just picked a few different ones out of the same fabric to turn into fussy cutting motifs. Yeah, my approach to this is make it fun. Sew it when you can. I'm prepping like a few blocks at a time and then sewing them up. But because I have fussy cutting, like fabric to fussy cut, kind of what I'm doing is I'm picking a few fabrics from my stash that match the fabric to fussy cut, and so I'll fussy cut whatever I can out of it. So like this fabric, I had this one, these trees are the same fabric, and then I had a couple that were fussy cut into this shape as well, and I just matched the different fabrics, cut them out so that they will, how do I say this? So I cut all of the pieces out of one fabric first, and then I cut the matching ones out of other fabrics so that I have blocks prepared. And I'm obviously going for some high contrast in my colours. So yeah, like so happy with this. Really enjoy getting Jodie's emails. I had the pleasure of meeting her at the end of last year when I was in her hometown. I got in contact with her and we had a cup of tea and spoke all things, everything. It was really lovely. Yeah, so really enjoying doing this. and as I make more blocks, I will show you. I think I have one almost finished, but I'll wait until they're finished before I show you. All right, now onto my whips. I have 2 whips that I'm currently working on. So this is goals. Can I talk about goals? I really want all of these top ones to be finished soon. So the earliest one I have here is from the 20th of January last year. So that is a full year old. The next one is the 20th of April, the 26th of May, the 1st of September, and the 5th of October. And I want all of them to be gone. Not because I don't enjoy working on them, but because I'm not working on them. Because I've been focusing on new projects, on Christmas knits. I've been starting and finishing a huge amount, but I'm not actually finishing these ones because they've kind of been put aside and I forget about them. But I want them. Like, they are useful items, they are pretty items, I love working on them, I just haven't been prioritizing them. Totally my decision. So, my plan is that when I finished this, rather than casting on a new shawl or a new sweater that I have been planning, I picked one of these to pick up. So I will show you that in a second, the one that I picked. I'm still casting on socks and working on socks because I will always have socks on the needles because that is my on-the-go knitting. But as for the things that need a little bit more focus or a bit more awkward to carry around, I am still putting these, I am going to move these into those spots. I haven't decided if I'll do one of these and then do a new one and then do another one and then do a new one, or if I'll just work through all of these. But definitely I have started working through them. And there's only 5 until you get to April. Then there's another 2, but those 2 aren't in this country, so they don't count yet. Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do, rather than just always casting on new things. So this one, having said that, is completely new. I started this yesterday because I finished these ones yesterday. And I knew, actually, I was at Bible study last night, and it was a social night. So I was knitting away on my socks and I finished them, and there's at least 2 people in Bible study who want me to teach them how to knit socks. So I'm going to do that, have a little sock sesh. But I put it down and then I picked up this and started knitting. And they were like, did you just start a new project? Yeah, I did. Yep, yeah, I did. And so I did that, and then today I was waiting for appointments, and so I was knitting on it some more, and when I went out for coffee this morning, and it is another sock. This yarn is Half Baked Hand Dyed. She's an Australian dyer, and I was given this yarn by a swap. Do you have the tag here? Half Baked Hand Dyed. This is self-striping sock in the colour Ava, AVA. It says superwash merino nylon, doesn't say percentages, and it's a 6-row repeat. And I think it's a 4 colour. So you've got, see, this is looking more grey. So I'm like, is it grey, blue, red, blue, white, blue? It's a 5 colour repeat, or is it just that the white? Yeah, I don't know if it's all the white is meant to be the same colour, or if one is more grey and one is more white. I think it's meant to be the same colour. So I think it's white, blue, red, blue, white, blue, red, blue. I think that's right. I am doing these for my nephew, who has size 13 Australian feet, so quite large. So they will take a while. I do 2x2 ribbing for the cuff. This time I did 13 rounds. I normally do 14, but this is what I wanted to tell you about the ribbing before. See how the colourway change is clean? That's because when I start the new colour, I knit for a round. From the first stitch of the new colour to the end of the round, like until I've done a complete circuit, and then I start the 2x2 pattern again. And it means that you don't get any like awkward purl bumps and things in there. Not my trick, learn it from Cave the Crazy Sock Lady, but works brilliant. But I knew that because the round started to change, you can see that there, that if I did another round of knit 2 purl 2, I would end up just knitting straight half of that round anyway. So I just stopped at the end of 13, and the second sock, I don't know if I'm going to match it or not, but I'll see how that works out when I get there. I really love this yarn. This is the second time that I've used this yarn. It is so soft, so delightful. I'm really hoping that I have enough to make a pair of shorties for me as well, because I just love the feel of this yarn. The colorway is not something that I would have chosen, but since I was given it in a swap, I don't mind, and I really enjoy working out colors that I wouldn't use. So this is so much fun to me. And yeah, like my nephew is 17, so he's, you know, young guy, he'll love this. It's a bit fun, so great. I'm doing it on double pointed needles, and I did want to talk about these because these are brand new. I saw these in a shop the other day and I thought, I have been wanting to try these for so long. They are ChiaoGoo double pointed needles. These are 2.5 millimeter. I bought these from Makery, which is a yarn and fabric shop in Gungahlin, Canberra. And they are brilliant. I love them. I don't know if you've been here long. If you haven't, welcome. If you have been, thanks for coming back. I have had a bit of a journey with double pointed needles. I love working on them. I like the feel of them. But I think I started with Zing double pointed needles, and the ends are just a bit flat. And so if you're trying to do make ones or go into things, like it's just a bit of an awkward shape. Like it's not pointy enough for me. I did get some mindless ones, Knit Pro Mindless, and they seem to be fine. I haven't had a problem with them. But I always wanted to try ChiaoGoo because I love ChiaoGoo red lace for my needle, for my socks. And so when I saw these, I bought them. It was 16 Australian dollars for a set of 5, which seems very reasonable to me. And I love them. They just feel so comfortable, so natural. At no point am I thinking, oh, this is awkward. Zings, I find them awkward. Knit Pro Carbons, I find awkward. There's a little bump where like it's got a metal end and then I think a carbon body. And where it joins from one to the other, there's a little bump and I find it awkward. There's like, these are just one piece of metal. It's lovely. I don't think I'm going to buy another pair because I only need one pair of sock needles for DPNs, but oh, they are so nice. Really enjoying them. And yeah, I haven't used my mindless ones recently enough to be able to do a comparison and be like, oh yeah, it's, you know, I prefer this one to that one. But in my mind, this is the first one that I haven't consciously not liked. Like, these are the first ones where I'm just like using them, being like, these are great. And then I'm like, oh wait, I'm using a new type of needle and I actually just love them. There you go. This is a TPN cozy that I made, Central Perk, friends. I bought the fabric from Spotlight Australia in the decor section. So it was fabric, but fabric for decorating and things. It's a bit thicker. Made myself some DPN cozies. And yeah, the yarn, this is what it looks like when you buy it. It's all hand wound and everything amazing. And I'm planning to use this one, Performance Cool Wool, for the heel, because I should have enough to do a size 13 men's with just this, but I figure a contrasting heel will just mean that the stripes don't get disrupted, or I don't pull from the inside and end up running out of yarn or something. Just a little bit of security. All right, one more project. Do you know which project I pulled out from, oh actually before that I will show you this. This is my new sock knitting bag. Someone from my church in Melbourne made it to raise money for Destiny Rescue. She just upcycles old, jeans, and yeah, I really, really like it, and is perfect because it's a across the shoulder one. I just wear it around and it's great, and I can knit and walk so much easier. And also my normal bag broke the other day, so this has kind of become it's my knitting bag, but if I need to throw keys or phone or something in it, I can, and it's really convenient. This one I made. I don't know if you're going to recognise the bag or recognise what's in it by the bag, but the project I decided to keep going with first is my Stephen West Mystery Knit Along from last year. Now this one got put down, I think, because of Christmas knitting, and I was ready to pick it up and finish it off. I am using Knitting for Olive yarn for this. It's a Danish, I believe, yarn. I'm using two different types. I've got Pure Silk, which is these two colours, and I have Cotton Merino, which is these two colours. The Pure Silk is plum and powder, and the Cotton Merino, which is 70% cotton, 30% merino, is mole, and where's my other pink one? Strawberry Ice Cream. Because there's such a high cotton content in the Cotton Merino, I'm not finding any problem doing Cotton Merino and silk, because both of them are very similar qualities. And yeah, I will show you my project. I'm doing this on 3.75mm needles, which is slightly bigger than recommended in the pattern. I think 0.25. I think they say 3.5 in the pattern, and this is 3.75. And I am halfway through clue 3. So I know spoilers are long gone for this one, but I will show you what I've done. Which way does it go? And I will just say the center panel there is no pattern for. It is not a published pattern for the center square, but the rest of it is according to the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. So this is what I've done. So this is, it's a square. This is where clue 1 would go, but this is not clue 1. And then clue 2 is these two side panels of eyelet rows, and clue 3 is this wing, and the same on the other side. So I've done half of clue 3. When I put it away, I was up to, I think, this pink stripe here. So I'd done one complete repeat and a tiny little bit. And so I think I had only just started the pink stripe. So in the last few days in the last week, I have done the entire wing, as well as knit the other two socks. Yeah, I am excited to finish this. It will be nice when it is done. I love this pattern, the way that it looks. I don't love the way that it is to knit it. I just found it really awkward to knit the whole way. I have tied in all the ends and just have little raggedy bits so that I can block it before I trim everything. And I did the same on the center panel and the other sides. So it's a bit ratty looking, but it won't stay that way. Sorry, I've touched, amazing. I didn't realize I touched my screen to focus on something, and then it kept trying to focus on that exact same point, no matter what I did. But if I double touch it, then it goes away. Good to know. It goes back to autofocus. Yeah, so this one I will keep working on and plugging away. I have seen the completed shawl, so it's not a surprise for me. I know that I have to do the second wing, and I don't think that'll be as much of an issue now that I've done one. But then I need to do the border that goes along. I will do it the large size. I have plenty of yarn, and I will absolutely do the fringe as well. And I'll probably just try and use up the yarn to do that because I have plenty of yarn, but I also don't really have another project for little odds and ends of cotton or silk. Merino, absolutely, I would use, but it's such a high cotton content that I don't know, there's not much point for it in my yarn stash. So yeah, really enjoying doing this now that I know the pattern and how it works. And it's just about the time to work on it. I've just started the second half, and that means doing an I-cord cast off. And so I've done this much of the I-cord cast off that needs to go to here. And so I'm just waiting for a bit of time where I can sit down and focus to do that. And then it will be back into I can pick it up and knit it relatively easy because I know the pattern and the repeat. All right, I think that is all of my projects. This has been quite an episode because it's been a while. I don't know what the plan is for recording going forward. I know that I love doing this and I want to keep keeping you updated with my projects. I also know that while we're in Australia, I don't have a huge amount of time to sit and record. We're just very busy, family, friends, church, all sorts of things, school. So yeah, I think at the moment I'm kind of settling into a month wrap up and then what I'm working on rather than doing a fortnightly or something like that. I hope you still enjoy whatever it is that I can do at the moment. And yeah, we'll just keep going with what's working. I obviously am still knitting and loving the knitting and loving the making, and I should take this off because it's actually not my jumper, but gosh, it is comfortable. I really should make myself an oversized, like it's so oversized, but it's really, really nice that it's oversized. I might just make one for me too. If I get another 200 gram ball, then I can make a whole other sweater. I may do that. Anyway, it has been lovely chatting with you. Life stuff, I wouldn't even know where to start. It's been so much. So yeah, we'll just skip that for this time. I've already spoken so much about everything that I've been making. I do have other projects that I'm planning to make, but I think I'll just wait until I start them and show you them when I start them. Yeah, and I hope, like, I love watching podcasts and seeing the progress of things. And if I'm doing monthly summaries at the moment, you're not going to see much of the progress. You'll just be like, and I finished this, and I finished this, and I finished this, especially if I'm working on kind of 1 or 2 projects at a time rather than lots and lots. But hopefully that's all right, and that works for you where you're at right now, because that's what works for me where I'm at right now. And yeah, cool. Thank you so much for joining me. It has been delightful to be back here again, and I will see you next time. Happy knitting.